Alright, let's keep it pushing. Almost done. At least with the base colors. So, considering everything that we have done so far, all that we have remaining are the gemstones, which are here, here, and here. You don't need, no, I don't need to annotate them, you know where they are. And the little straps like that. So let's go ahead and make a new layer. We'll call it straps. Cool. And we'll go into texture paint mode as usual. And we'll go into our fill tool and just color pick a darker shade, a darker color, maybe a bit darker, something like that. And we want it to be dark as a base just so that we can add in our highlights in a bit more of a effective manner. We can do the same thing for the bottom parts as well. Let's see if I can navigate there. Alright, cool. And now we just have to go ahead and start painting. This is me coming back to Blender, so my settings are a bit messed up. So let me just fix them real quick. Alright, that's good. Let's look at our reference. Let's go to the top. We just kind of want to define the geometry a bit more. Enable our wireframe. Color pick. Maybe a bit brighter. Are we even in the right? Okay, yeah, figured we weren't, the object wasn't selected, so it wasn't actually going to paint. We want it to be lighter on the top and darker on the bottom, just so that we can simulate light. Just like that. And we can color pick in the middle here. We notice how we left a bit of a gap in the painting. We can color pick that and just bring it out gently. We can maybe color pick a darker value as well, just so that now the edges have some highlights to them. So we can do a similar thing with the other parts, the side parts here. We don't want it to be as dark as this part. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Already messing it up. We don't want it to be as dark as this set of faces here, but we do want it to be darker than its current status. Oh my gosh, I can't speak, jeez. We do want it to be a bit darker. Not darker than that current set of than the side set of faces there on this part, but dark enough so that we can at least make the edges look like they have some sort of highlights to them. Again, with our highlights, make it a bit brighter on the top, and then bring it down slowly. I think for the sake of just, simulating ambient occlusion, we can kind of make it a bit darker on the top, but then have like our lights hit in the middle of it. Let's define this a bit more. Cool. We can make it a bit darker on the bottom, just like that. And we can move on to the next strap. So we'll have it a bit lighter on the top as usual. And for the creases and folds, we can just take a darker color and then go along a few times, and then take a lighter color and then go along that a few times. It doesn't have to be anything like, uniform, but just so that it looks like there is some variations in height. Let's make sure the edges are a bit brighter. Let's darken the bottom a bit. Now let's hit the bottom straps. These can really just kind of be more plain than usual. Don't really need to worry too much about surface details and line art and stuff like that. Let's make the crease right there a bit more defined. So we can give it a lighter highlight, just like that. All right, that's that step done. Now let's hit the gemstones. I think that would be good next. This is my first time doing gemstones, actually, so I'll be learning at the same time as you. But I do know the fundamentals of stylized hand painting, so this might be a bit easier. Hopefully. Let's color pick a darker color and just fill it. Let's actually make sure these are the same object, just for the sake of making everything easier. Okay, now we can just go along based on where we think our light will hit the object. So we can make it a bit brighter on the top. Perhaps have that light sort of thicken on the edges. And then darker on the bottom. But still have there be some sort of edge highlights present. like that. And we can do the exact same thing for the other gemstones too. So let's actually clean up the one on the bottom, because just the one on the top looks a lot better. So I'm gonna redo this. Much better. Right, last but not least, the one on the top. Really don't need to look at the reference for this. I think they're all the same, just slightly stretched out on this reference. Pretty cool. Alright, now that the block out for those is pretty much finished, we can move on to the sword. And obviously, like, we'll touch those up a bit. We'll move on to the blade, I mean. So hit the blade. Let's go ahead and color pick on the reference. And select a darker shade, a darker color, and then fill it with the fill tool. Oop, wrong one. Cool. And let's hit our wireframe view. So let's start with the darker values. Uh-oh. Please work. Okay, cool. This is just for like mapping out our AO, ambient occlusion. Okay, maybe we might want to make this sword a bit lighter. I can never make up my mind when it comes to this stuff. Let's map out some quick highlights. And shadows. We're getting to work with our surface details. Making sure our highlights from the base color that we added, which was a lighter grayish blue, are still intact on the edges. But we don't need to worry about them too much because we can always go back and refine them further. Right, not looking bad. Let's just get the outer part of the blade done. go ahead and accentuate our shadows a bit more. Let's clean up our highlights. Alright, let's make sure nothing looks too bad. Let's just make it look better. That's pretty much all I was gonna say. I'm gonna condense our highlights on the surface a bit more, just so that they're more focused in like the middle. Just like that. I just want to get to a good point where we can finally just break the symmetry and then start adding further detail. That has yet to happen though. A common thing I see in a lot of people's works, primarily beginners' works, and not that I'm trying to exclude myself from beginners, because I am myself a beginner, but their highlights are very soft. Like this and like that right there, very, very soft, very poorly defined. That's not really something I really want to do. I guess it kind of depends on what you want to do for your style, but generally I don't think it looks the best. And oftentimes I find that people who can define their highlights have a better time of differentiating themselves from a beginner. just because it looks better. Point blank, period. Let's see if we can actually, do that here. Okay, blade is not looking bad. Alright, let's try to break symmetry here. Let's make this side darker now. Let's throw in some other colors too. Might put in a darker purple maybe. There we go. let's fix up the highlights and then we'll get started with additional detailing. I'm gonna try this again. I think I'm going to make the switch to 3D coat sooner rather than later. These layers in Yuku Paint, while effective, are very often detrimental at the same time because they're just so wonky. They could just be really wonky. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same in 3D coat. I'm not sure if I'm going to experience the same problems in 3D coat, but it's industry standard for a reason. And I'm definitely going to see if I can get anything out of it. For anyone wondering if, they'll be able to follow along, don't worry. The workflow between Blender and 3D Coat is still pretty transferable. It's kind of how I learned how to hand paint. I just watched people doing it in 3D Coat. So don't worry about not being able to follow along. But I'm definitely going to make the switch soon. Because I'm just holding myself back at this point. Looking a bit better. Let's go ahead and make sure our highlights are a bit more accentuated by adding that little dark line between the highlights and the surface. Alright, now let's hit some highlights. If we even can pull that off. starting to have like major doubts right now. It's insane. Let's try using a constant fall off, see how that works. Yeah, never mind. That's pretty bad. Okay, now that this part is finally out of the way, let's go ahead and just add in some quick rust, just to give it some variation in color. And we can add that along the edges of the highlights. I don't think that's rust. We'll just call it rust, because it looks like rust. Alright, let's go back to the blade and just fix up our highlights. Alright, we'll save that for later. That was meant to be like a little test run of our ambient occlusion.